everybody. How's it going? Happy Monday. I'm just making sure this all looks normal. How's everybody doing? How's everyone feeling? All right. So I decided to just come on here and do a live because I tried to do a reel on this topic, and I am not I just don't operate well with reels. I don't do well with doing a reel of me talking about like a topic. It just never works for me. I can do reels of other things. It's fine, but find it a lot easier to just come on here and just talk about what I was wanting to share. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm just on here. And if you're around to hang out live, that's awesome. And I also definitely, if you're watching this live or on the replay, I would love to hear your opinions on this, your personal experience on this topic in the comments, or just any questions you might have. Please feel free to do that in the comments at any point. So really quick, this is not going to be a long discussion. I just wanted to touch on something that came up recently. And it came up recently because I had just hosted my retreat a couple weeks ago for the fall equinox, and it was awesome. But one of the things that actually came up, which comes up pretty much every time I do a retreat or I'm part of a retreat, right, is, where people say, how am I going to go back to normal life, right, after doing this? How am I supposed to just abruptly go back to my corporate job or my regular whatever, right? And just be who I am. Hey, Brian. And it's a valid question. It's a valid feeling. It's something that I think a lot of people struggle with quite often. And it doesn't even have to be around a retreat. I also feel like this topic it's like an umbrella under a few things where, sure, you may be coming back from a retreat. That could be one of the things. Or maybe you just had like an intensive weekend of training of like psychic ability or something spiritual based, right? Or maybe you have a practice that is weekly or monthly that is part of a spiritual based community where you're doing spiritual practices that feels very, again, isolated and separate from all the other things that you do in your life, right? It's a very common thing. I think a lot of people that do this work tend to have both, right? I mean, I think we're all supposed to really have both in that sense. And I think people struggle with the concept of, how do I have this spirituality that is growing and this awareness that is growing that feels almost overwhelming at times. And then I'm supposed to go and be in this environment of people that don't understand it and don't want to, and maybe even judge it, right? So I think it's a really important topic to talk about and something that I just haven't really heard discussed that much. So that's why I wanted to present it, just bring it up to, my audience and talk about it. I think one of the best perspective shifts that you could have around this issue, if you want to call it an issue, is thinking of it this way. Because this is something that I feel has really, really helped me. And I'll also touch on why and kind of where it also comes from for me personally. But the way I look at it is that, of course, I mean, yes, it's going to be a little jarring to go from very extreme immersions into a normal job or a space where there's maybe some negativity or people that aren't so happy, whatever it might be. However, instead of looking at it as, oh my God, I did all this work on myself spiritually. I feel so expanded. I feel amazing. And now I'm going to go into my job and it's going to ruin it, right? It's going to go away. It's going to just totally kill my vibe. And I'm just going to completely forget all the work that I did and all of this, right? I'd really want to challenge you, if you feel that way, to not think that way. As hard as it might be sometimes, right? Because it doesn't have to be that way. It does not have to be that way. And I think it's really a basic perspective shift in this sense of, instead of seeing it this way, that it's going to impact your growth, impact this work that you've done. Instead, see it as this. When I go back into these other environments after doing work on myself spiritually, I'm actually going into this environment more expanded, more in tune with my soul's mission, the fact that every living person around me is also a soul, just like me. I am more tapped into, a higher power, a spiritual connection, and knowing that that connects every single person on this earth, right? And that we're all a part of this. And if anything, by me being more immersed in that, connected to that, I am bringing that vibration into these spaces. And even if people don't care, don't want to know about it, maybe don't know at all about this stuff, and maybe are negative, it's going to impact them. And it may impact them indirectly, but there's no way that it won't impact them. They're going to feel that energy, that light from you. They're going to feel it. And to me, I really think that one of the most important things that we can do as spiritual beings, people, is to really bring these vibrations, these ways of being into normal places, because that's where people need it. Those are the places where people are not necessarily don't maybe feel safe to even discuss topics like this or be curious about it, as fear of being judged, or they have other reasons, but a lot of times people in these environments, they don't have access to that and maybe never will. So I think it's so valuable to have a person like that in those environments where you can it's like you can indirectly share that light with these people and give it to them. You don't even have to say anything, honestly. It just can come from who you are and the level of peace that you feel, the level of connection that you feel. It's a contagious thing. It is. And to me, you also, maybe someone comes to you for advice at work. Maybe someone is just having a hard day. And by you leaning into that connection that you have worked so hard to cultivate, it's there for other people in all these amazing different ways. And even in the work that you do, right? I think it's amazing when people, especially, they tune into their intuition and their intuitive self, and then they add that into their work life, and it just enhances their work in the most incredible way. So I think it's very simple, right? And it's hi, Ashley. It's a great shift that you can make in the sense of they don't have to impact all of what I've done. That's solid, right? Like, I'm good. I got it. And that's something, again, to just, you're locking into and you're anchoring within your soul and your soul connection, and realizing that not only do I not have to allow outside people's stuff to mess with that, because they really can't, honestly, unless I allow that, but it also can benefit them. And what I wanted to also talk about around that too was how I think I'm lucky in the sense of, from my experience with AA, really, and the 12 steps, right? That going through that whole process and just becoming the person that I ended up being from working that program, it really changed my perspective on just my everyday life and the people that I encounter, the scenarios I encounter, and whatever may come up in my regular day. And, obviously, yeah, I work as a medium, but there's plenty of things that I do as just a normal person. I'm still a human. I'm still a human being, even though I don't feel like it all the time. But there's plenty of scenarios that I encounter that are very mundane, you could say, like compared to working as a medium. But they have just as much beauty and spiritual impact to me, if not more. When I'm able to connect with another human being that is able to almost sense that or feel that connection for maybe even just a moment, or I'm able to have a conversation with somebody that's having a hard time, or even just connecting with somebody that isn't having a hard time. But I'm able to see people at this deeper level. I just see them as connected to spirit, as connected to my higher power, the universe. And it's a beautiful feeling when you're able to kind of view your world through that lens. And it's very empowering. And it's something that honestly can make your day a lot easier too. And to me, it's also viewing stuff from this higher perspective and from a more detached place, in a sense, right? So I'm not getting so locked in and involved with the people in my life that are maybe having a hard time or often get on my nerves, whatever. But I'm able to view them, their scenarios, their situations, and everything from this higher spiritual perspective. So I just wanted to offer that because it's something that has really helped me when I've experienced those situations, where I've, gone to a retreat or whatever it might be that I was doing. And I just felt so, in a sense, it made me feel isolated, right? It made me feel very alone and cut off from the people around me in my everyday. But then when I shifted that viewpoint over time, it's made a very big difference on how I just carry myself throughout my day, how I view all my experiences and interactions. So I would love to know your feedback on this, your perspective on it, and if you have anything that you'd like to add. And I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day. All right, bye.